Hey, this is Joe Van Cleve, and welcome to the Bosque, the river forest along the Rio Grande, north of Albuquerque. And I'm down here because back in 2004, me and a friend made a movie down here called Bosque Abduction, and yours truly played the bad guy. And I decided that me and my friend David would come down here today and kind of talk about the whole movie making process and the creative process of how did we come up with this silly movie, and what was our thinking, and how did it work and everything. So welcome to a field trip along the Bosque of the Rio Grande near Albuquerque.
I'm David Loving. I was part of the Bosque Abduction, co-director, co-producer, editor, special effects, whatever we had to do, we tried to do it, and had to build a new computer just to get the thing done. So
yeah, my how things have changed in the interim period. But we're going to sit out here on these benches here on a cold, windy winter day and see if we can keep from freezing to death. And we're going to kind of talk about this, how to start on this story. Well, back in 2004, we worked together, David and I did, and we discovered that we had a similar fondness for filmmaking. And David had dabbled in Super 8 filmmaking back years ago, right?
Right. Actually, it was a Standard 8.
Standard 8, okay.
With my cousin in Dallas, and we would try to make monster movies or Wolfman or People with Convulsions or something, and then send the film to the drugstore. I think that was even before Photomat days, and so we would get all excited when that was in, and we'd make his room all dark and watch what we did, and
wow,
you know, the chatter of the projector. But
yeah.
70s, I had a Super 8 camera, and I tried to get my high school friends together and make some almost music videos where it was mostly running around, and I would play music of some songs to try to match the action. But we dressed up in costumes, Civil War costumes, and had sword fights, and it was very monkey-esque at the time.
So when we met, we had somehow, you had just bought a new video camera, I believe.
Right.
It was a Sony
High 8.
A High 8.
Still
right?
use tape.
Yeah.
Some special effects in the camera.
Yeah, and I remember you had I came over to your house on a weekend, and you had just gotten this camera, and you were also just put together this computer system, maybe, or just afterwards you did, but for editing.
One computer was an HP that had its limitations. You couldn't expand it. So once we got into the full idea of having a script that you wrote, and all the ideas, and we planned the shots, and found this location amongst the man cave up in the Sandias, and I think I did some green screen stuff in my garage, but we had a list of shots. So once the video was coming in on my camera and your camera, I realized that the old HP camera wouldn't hack it. Computer
HP
wouldn't hack it. So I had to build a whole new computer, which was at that time was maybe $2,000 with all the memory and motherboard and monitor and things.
You know what's crazy is I'm doing these videos on a little iPod Touch. I mean, editing and uploading.
It's,
you know, the technology is incredible.
It's amazing what the speeds are now on the memory size.
Well, so let's go back to the very beginning, that day when you had, when I came over to your house and we decided to come down here by the river and with your camera and just ad lib. I mean, we didn't even know what we were going to do. We were just going to shoot some video, right?
I think you just took off and started improv, and I had the camera rolling. And you started to say, you know, something like, "Well, this is where they grabbed me.
This is where the aliens grabbed me.
Like you were some hick."
Right. And then there was like a little game trail going through the underbrush, and I said, "And this is where they dragged my body out toward the river, out toward the riverbank."
And my knee hit this spike of a tree trunk that a beaver had eaten.
Yeah.
It was perfect. I didn't.
Yeah.
I don't know who the beaver was. We didn't give him credit.
We didn't give the beaver credit. Yeah. But so what was fun about this is we ended up with roughly a half hour,
35 minutes,
35-minute video
with
production with credits, and it was all based on this idea. What all started it was just an impromptu, free-form, ad-lib creative expression that happened spontaneously because we were out here in the middle of nowhere. Nobody was to watch us, nobody's bothering us, and we felt uninhibited. At least I did. We had this new technology, new to us technology, and it was really about making opening up your creative self.
And one exciting thing was we got so far into the storyline that then we realized we had to go further and do some more shots to explain
how
why
that happened.
the story progressed the way it did.
Right.
Because I was a reporter down from Denver investigating a murder.
Right.
And so that led me to do some research and find out these missing persons, these abductions, and one rumor was it was aliens that abducted people, UFOs. So I found Joe's character at his house and started asking him questions. And Joe pulls out some kind of antenna spring, thing, says this was in my nose and it's the government, and the aliens grabbed my wife and all this stuff. And I said, okay, just let me do this story and I'll leave you alone. But I, of course, the good reporter that I was, I kept investigating and
we're gonna have a link to the video. The video has been up on YouTube for a decade, maybe, or more.
Well,
since 2008.
Maybe. The early days, the size of the video you could show was so small I had to chop it into fourths, into quarters.
Right.
And on one of them, the sound and the video sync didn't match, and I tried to work on that, and over the years I gave up, and someone said, oh no, you can put larger amounts on. So I think I put the completed version, the whole 35 minutes on there. I'm not sure. I'll have to go back.
I think it's about 2008.
I'll have to go back and check. But
it's interesting though. It's 2004 when we did this movie. This was before YouTube, or maybe it was just at the start of YouTube. I think YouTube started. You guys can fact check me and go to Google and look at it. But YouTube got its start maybe 2004, 2005, maybe somewhere in that time frame. But I certainly wasn't on YouTube, and I don't think you were at the time. And
no, so, I was passing out DVDs to friends.
This was still the pre-YouTube, pre-social media, where you had a camcorder, analog tape, that whole thing, like the previous episode I did about the Joe Show back in the early 1990s. But I'm interested in the whole creative process of how this happened, because I think when we shot those first scenes that day, it sort of became like an exercise for you and for us. It was, first of all, it was test footage that you could use to practice and experiment editing on your new computer. And so you made this little 5-minute little production that was that was kind of a it was a test.
Even my dog was in this.
Even your dog was in it, right? And you used it to test out some special effects and
I had new sound. Sound effects, music, and all that goes into the computer, and then you render and you go, well, this part didn't work out, this part I need to go back and reshoot that. But I think part of it started out with a storyboard as well. You kind of you want to outline it, and that's when you're at home thinking, brainstorming, and that's part of the creativity. It is the creative process.
And you did a really great job on that little 5-minute video, and I thought after we saw it, that was when we realized that we have something here that could be a bigger production. I mean,
yeah.
Part of it, I think the magic of it was the spontaneity of, it sounds kind of not logical that you would have such a great result from not having a script, you know what I mean? But sometimes when you over-plan things, you don't get the creativity.
Well,
like I know even with regular professional movie making, oftentimes they give the actors a lot of time to ad-lib and to redo the takes until they can find that creative space where they get it just right. You know?
Right. When I've been on set, it was 8 or 9 takes, and everyone would take turns screwing up. Either you'd miss your mark, somebody would forget the lines, the lighting, something would fall down, make a noise. And then other times we didn't know why we were doing it again.
Yeah, yeah.
And of course they always say, well, let's do one more for safety. Just do another one.
Yeah.
Well, we have everybody here. And of course that's with 300 people on set, and that's crazy. But this is more fun than being on a big set.
Yeah, so the whole thing about this was, I think I would call this kind of like maybe guerrilla filmmaking in a sense, but I think there's a real power in this idea of spontaneity, creative spontaneity. That's my whole theme for this show, I think, is the fact that you can go out in, with some simple tools like these, and maybe with just ad-libbing off the top of your head like I was, or maybe you just have an inkling of some kind of an idea, but you don't really have it formally sketched out, in a big
you never know.
script.
It could explode or blossom into something else where maybe it came from your subconscious.
Yeah.
And then it became art, and it's an idea, and it's fun. And you go, wow, that was fun. I got this idea. What about?
Yeah.
And that, like our characters, of course I'm dead in this, but
well,
it could go on to something else, another show, a spin-off, a sequel.
Yeah. So I kind of wanted to talk about, there was 2 days where we did most of the shooting on this project. One day was we went up into Albuquerque where I lived, and we shot the scenes around my character's house. And so you got a picture of this, that I'm wearing literally a tinfoil hat.
Aluminum foil hat.
And of course, if you see the video, I'll have it linked down below. You can watch the movie and you'll see. But I'm this crazy guy in a tank top shirt, and yeah, I put way too much sugar in the coffee. I know that. If you don't know what I'm talking about, watch the movie.
And he was on the roof.
And I was on the roof, and you came over and was wanting to talk to me about this, about what happened to my wife that went missing, and
and you went on the defensive, and
that was funny. And then the other day that we did shooting was the big day. We were out here, and I think I got over to your house about like 5 o'clock in the morning.
It was dark.
It was still dark out, and we had to get all our stuff together, all our equipment. I think you bought a painter's pole, like a 16-foot
I still have it.
Painter's pole.
And I had the camera up in the trees.
Up in the trees, shooting video.
Turning it as he walked on the path.
Yeah.
And then I had to do the Foley of the crunching, walking, and we did that a couple times. But imagine looking up into a little screen to see if you have your person framed correctly by doing this.
You need like binoculars to look at your camera.
Yeah, so and one time I tried to climb a tree and shoot, but I think we didn't do that. But I was going to hang from a branch with a camera as you went under, but
I think
I didn't. That was right over there.
Yeah, I think our favorite scene, at least my favorite scene, was the scene where my character smacks you in the face with a shovel.
Oh, that was
so funny, because we had to frame it so that the handle of the shovel hits this tree. You're coming around the side of a tree. I'm on the other side, and the sound of the handle hitting the tree right in front of your face.
And of course, the actual shovel head was
like 3 feet in front of you.
3 or 4 feet away from my head, but it was lined up, so it was right here. Wing!
And you hear the handle hitting the tree, which kind of has that dull thud sound, right?
So I added over-exaggerated clang noise, and it wouldn't have really done that in real life.
In real life, you would have used a watermelon.
It would have, yeah.
But I don't think we had watermelon at that time of year, did we? What time of year was that, by the way? Was it like fall? Let's see. I can't remember when it was. But anyways.
It wasn't cold.
So then the other shot that we had to do was the slow motion shot of you spewing this stuff that looked like blood out of your mouth. And so you had this Cairo syrup.
I had a jar.
And it was, you got it from your pantry at the kitchen in your house, and it was maybe like years old,
and I stirred it up.
And you didn't know how old it was.
Water and
water.
Yeah, so that was the blood that.
Because it was shot in black and white, it didn't have to be red color, it just had to be darker, right?
Yeah.
And so you kind of turned your head and spewed this stuff, and then you shot it in slow motion, or had to do it in slow motion.
And then I fell down in the leaves and just crunched and collapsed, and of course some dissolves, and then some strange music, and then Joe leans over my body, you know, and he's got to bury me now.
I have to bury you, yeah.
But I did. My character did find a skeleton face in the ground, and I saw that and I went, ah! And then a skeleton hand came up and grabbed my leg.
Which had nothing to do with the story. Almost.
No.
It was just like it was an homage.
It was a tribute to Bruce Campbell early movies.
Yes.
Thank you,
But
Mr.
you
Campbell.
shot that whole skeleton hand scene on your own. You actually buried your arm underneath the leaves, right? Kind of like...
I had a board with a hole in it with cloth painted, and then I put leaves on the board, glued the leaves, and then put a skeleton Halloween glove on, and had my leg over a board, and I reached under and
with a camera at just the right angle.
I shot it like this, grabbed that, and it was crazy.
But I think the lesson is that, you know, if you're on your own doing this kind of stuff by yourself, there's a lot of ways you can be creative and kind of find solutions to these filmmaking problems, right? You know,
if you don't have a big family, you kind of have to do this, or ask your neighbors. You know, if you had a bunch of kids, you could say, well, you're the sound guy, you're going to be makeup, and I need some lighting. Kid number one, you move the light over there. But it was
you had to make do.
Yeah, I had to figure this out myself with strings, pulleys, and you know.
So the interesting thing about this movie, Bosque Abduction, is in New Mexico, you know, we're kind of a square-shaped state, and it's high desert. There's 4 or 5 different climatic zones, like mountains in the north, more of deserts, northern desert in the south. But you got this Rio Grande River running down the middle of the state with this narrow band of green foliage of trees, and there's this old Hispanic cultural tradition of La Llorona, the old lady who lost her kids, and it's like she's a haunted witch that haunts the river forest. And this is in New Mexico culture, goes hundreds of years. And it's funny that, I mean, we weren't really consciously thinking of this, but this whole story of the Bosque Abduction, supposed aliens down in the Bosque, you know, and it's really a murder.
Well,
it kind of fit, you know.
Plus, there have been attacks. People jog on some trails down here, and some guys would jump out with knives and try to rape women or rob people. So there is a little bit of
real life kind of going on.
Yeah, a little spooky down here.
But then also in New Mexico, we have this kind of, since 1947, obviously, we have the UFO subculture, you know, with the so-called Roswell incident and all the nuclear weapons development that's happened in this state.
Right. Some places in New Mexico, the scientists would say, hey, this is a perfect place for a nuclear explosion. You know, way down south. And then there's nothing down there.
There's nothing down. And then they make the movie Them. Right, in 1954.
With the giant ants.
The giant ants from the radiation.
New Mexico,
New Mexico. I mean, that's the kind of stuff we would do if we had special effects, you know.
And a helicopter.
And a helicopter, But you know, the thing is that we have this technology now. You can shoot it on your cell phone. We have movie making, filmmaking technology that we would have died for back 10, 15 years ago. I mean, this was 13 years ago when we made Bosque Abduction, and what we can do now with a simple phone technology, cell phone technology, digital editing, upload to YouTube, it's amazing what we can do now, you know. And I think really the lesson is we're not as much hindered anymore by the technology part of it. what really the challenge always is and remains the creative part of it. How to get creative, right? How to get in that creative zone.
In the zone.
In the zone, right?
That is true.
Yeah. You know, because we don't have as many excuses now as we used to. You can't say, I only have an analog camera, I'm limited,
right.
I can't do audio dubbing very well, I have to do this or that. We can't have those excuses anymore, right? We, you know.
Well, one thing I notice is I will storyboard something, I'll write down an idea, outline a real quick, shoot this, here's the story, this happens, and then I set it down, and then the next day I go back and look at it and I go, it's a little weak.
Yeah.
But why at the time did I think it had some energy to it?
Something was there. There was something
there.
But it's capturing that essence, you know.
And what is it when you have to, when you're in the zone creating something? I know you need to just do it and write it down or speak into a recorder and say, the ship lands, they just saw the beacon where the other ship crashed and they're on a rescue mission. They're going down to find these people. And of course this is a verbal contract between us. The story. So then they go out and then something happens on this mysterious, either a planet, asteroid. And then you visualize the set. And then if you are in charge of doing different parts of the whole movie, your brain goes down these rabbit trails of how am I going to build that set? Well, you just stopped writing the script there, and now you're working on the set. So it gets kind of weird.
It does.
It's
putting on different
hard.
hats. Putting on different hats. That's why I like the idea of just taking the camera out and kind of ad-libbing it to start with. You know, I mean, if in the context of this story we did, you can do that because you're in the action. This is the set, right? This forest right here.
Yeah, we have the trails, the trees.
Do you think we should recreate the original ad lib? Well, you can't really recreate an ad lib by definition. That would be
we could go show you where maybe I got dragged to the river. He kept saying, I don't want to get any closer because the radiation. The radiation was too great.
It was too great.
And then the next scene, he's closer.
I'm closer.
And then he goes, well, this looks like a rock that was ablated by the heat. And it happened over there. And then the next scene, he's over there.
Right.
So that was funny.
But it's not only the suspension of disbelief; it's the suspension of all logic and reason. That's the two essential elements to a B-grade movie. You should not only suspend your disbelief, but you suspend your logic.
It's hilarious. It's great.
So I think I said something like, see this little trail right here and that log? That was where they dragged my body, and I think I got snagged up on that little log right there. And
you were on that side.
And I was on that side, But that's where they dragged me through, and that's where it all started right there. And this is the clearing where the saucer landed, and this is where they dragged my body out to the saucer. And I think it's radioactive. I think we shouldn't even be here. So this is rock right here. It kind of looks heat ablated. It kind of looks burnt, like when the ship landed, the radiation hit it, and it kind of looks like it might be otherworldly. So some people think that you know, we don't have an actual river here in New Mexico, but yeah, there's the Rio Grande. It's an actual river. It's not real big like you might expect in a real wet place, but you know, it goes from Colorado to the Gulf of Mexico, and that's all we got here, so I guess we call it a river. But This is where the abduction took place. Anyways, Dave, this is Joe and Dave. What did we call that one show? We were going to do a video series called The Crazy Joe and Dave Show.
Crazy Dave and Joe Sci-Fi Show.
Sci-Fi Show. Yeah, this has been the crazy...
We can still do that.
The Crazy Dave and Joe Sci-Fi Show, signing off from the Rio Grande north of Albuquerque. You have yourselves a great day.
Safe shooting.
Yes. And don't go down in the Bosque after dark.